Hello and welcome to Fusion Writing, where building character meets creating structure. Today is our map day, and this is where we get down to the exciting parts of the topic of the week. So I'm heading it straight over to Victoria so she can get us started. Victoria?
Welcome back, everyone. So we're talking about the antagonist today. As I said in the compass yesterday, sometimes people automatically make an assumption that your villain is the antagonist. Well, that can be true, but not entirely. Yes, your villain is there as a hindrance or a challenge to your main character if you're writing a conflict-driven story. But that doesn't mean that you can't have other antagonists in play, especially if you're writing that 8 plot point story. You need something to hang those plot points, those challenges on. That's when you deploy your alternative antagonists. So what do those look like? Well, an easy way to remember what these can be is to just think of anything or non-person thing that can challenge your protagonist. What could that be? Literally anything. It can be an attitude. So it could be the character's own attitude, which you would call an attitudinal antagonist. It could be a misperception about the world. Again, that's a character perspective. Or it could be something external, like potentially the weather or animals or something in their environment, like, I don't know, a locked door or lost keys. Anything can be an antagonist if you start to put your writer's mind on it. How exciting is that? When you really start thinking, how can I trip this person up? How can I challenge them to reveal something about them? How can I use a conflict or something that's poking at them in order to move the story along, something they have to solve perhaps? Whatever that looks like for you in your story, those are all elements of antagonism. It can even be something as simple as a fly, which I literally have a gnat right here flying around, driving me insane this very moment. That's an antagonism. It's a tiny thing, but if you write that effectively into your story, it can be very meaningful in terms of that character's mental health and focus, if you hear what I'm saying. So, a couple of other quick pointers. What else can you use? Remember, it's anything that provides an opposition. So what might that look like? Well, how are you going to obstruct your character's momentum? If you think of your story as a straight line that rises, climaxes, and then falls off, what things can you put in the way in order to impede them? Sometimes that's going to be character dependent. Case in point, my dear friend Kathleen wrote a story where a group of ladies encounter a boulder blocking their path on a mountain road. I don't know about you, but I have done some mountain roads, and you put a big boulder in my way, and that's fairly terrifying. So the nature, the makeup of your very characters will often tell you what's going to cause them to be fearful, what's going to cause them to have stress or completely freak out and lose themselves. Your characters will tell you that if you ask them. All of those things are elements of antagonism. At the end of the day, when you're writing your story, if you've done your character trait work, as Kathleen's about to walk you through our next steps there, you're going to know inside your character's mind what's going to get to them. And those are the things that you're going to pick and choose to challenge them with. So remember, any agent of change that misdirects them, gets in their way, causes them grief or harm, all of those things are antagonists. Now, let me throw in a twist as a final thought. What if you introduce antagonists early on who are henchmen or minions of the real bad guy? That allows you to save your big bad villain until the end of the story and allow shades of him to show up in the antagonists or the minions that you throw in along the way. So you can even deploy them as early parts of the story to build up to something bigger later. You see this a lot in action movies, right? The heroine had a terrible experience with a storm as a child and ends up as a tornado chaser in later life because she's facing her fear. Again, that plays very fully into the character traits. So get inside the mind of that protagonist and figure out what you need to really poke them, and then use that to build either your people antagonists or your antagonist by proxy, which, as I said, can be absolutely anything. Only your writer's mind is there to expand and challenge and make that stuff up, because at the end of the day, we're all writing a great story. So harness that stuff and use it. Next time, we'll continue down this road because there's a lot more to explore when we talk about antagonists. But for now, I'm going to throw it over to Kathleen.
Oh, how fantastic. I love what you were talking about when you were saying that it's what's going on in your hero's mind that is the purpose of your antagonist. Your antagonist lets you show the mental state of your hero and the challenge to your hero that's going on in his head. Well, that's a perfect transition into my topic, which is what's going on in the character's head when we're talking about the character trait of honesty. So if honesty isn't truth-telling to others, what do we mean by this term honesty when we're using it as a technical term for a character trait? Well, in that case, what we are talking about is the character's own ability to be honest with himself. Is the character himself owning up to his part in what's producing the situations within his life? Oh, there are so many characters you could portray who are just victims of circumstance and don't even realize how much they're poking the person that's coming back at them so uncomfortably. What's the matter with him? So you see, if he's not understanding his own role in creating that conflict, then he's going to have it coming back at him and not be just ready to put it all on the other person. Also, there's a huge role in honesty that has to do with history. If you have built a character who has a backstory with something troubling that was the responsibility, the fault of your character, then that can come back to haunt them. It could either be something that they've repressed so much that they've just convinced themselves it's in the past, it's in the past, it's in the past, and they're not facing it. Then suddenly you could create an antagonist that would make him come face to face with that moment in his past and finally have to deal with it. So that is what we mean when we talk about honesty. It's what's going on inside the character's head. Well, there are a number of voices that you can possibly hear going on in your head. And we call those the voices of struggle, victory, and loss. Let's take first the voice of struggle. Now, the interesting thing about honesty is if your character has a problem with honesty, he's probably pushed it so far to the back that he's not recognizing it. So he's not hearing much of the voice of struggle up until the very moment that something happens in his life where he's forced to face it. Then he has to make a struggle to decide, okay, am I going to own up to myself what I have caused, or am I going to push it off again and blame it on someone else again? That's the struggle for honesty. Then we've got the two voices, the voice of victory and the voice of loss. I like to end on victory, so let's take loss first. The voices of loss either succeed in saying, pushing it right back out of the mind again, or firmly blaming someone else to once again say, nope, I am not going to face that one. No way. That's not my fault. It's in the past. It's not there. Then that's actually creating a lost state because that's going to churn in the back of your character's mind and it's going to get him wound up on things that aren't the tasks that he's facing at the moment. If it's your hero, that could be the early failure point that makes your story interesting because he's got to own up to it to make the ultimate success. If it's your villain, it could be the weak spot that helps you bring him down. So that's your lost state. Now, then there's actually, because this is a balance trait, you've got two lost states. The second lost state is to be so weighted down by it as, I'm worthless, I'm useless, I don't deserve to live. I'm a mess, blah, blah, blah. That is taking it on to the point where you don't feel there's any opportunity to redeem it. And if you let your character get into that state, then you're going to have to be looking for something to help him get back up and get himself back together and get some hope for the future again. So you have those two lost states. Now, what about the victory state? It's really best in your story, if you possibly can, when your character, probably your hero, because it's very emotional, when your hero comes to grips with whatever that was in the past, put him with someone who cares. And it doesn't matter if he's walked out of the bar with the booze bottle in his hand and he's walking down the road drunk and he plunks on the curb in his sorrow and he's finally ready to replace it, and another bum sits down next to him and puts his arm around him and listens. It can be that simple, but let him have someone with him when he comes to terms with it, because the victory state of honesty can be very strange. Grief can be a huge victory state of honesty. It's the moment when your character says, "Oh, I did that. Oh, I caused that." And when you just let your character genuinely feel and face that grief, well, guess what? Grief is the doorway to healing. It's the honesty. That is what we mean by honesty. Victoria, anything to add?
Oh, as always, amazing stuff, guys. You're getting a masterclass in how to get inside your characters and really make them resonate with your readers. The thing that really caught me, and I can't believe I never thought of this before, but this is why this is so much fun. Time. I hadn't thought of time as an antagonistic force. If something from the past has burdened you and you're holding on to it, or you're repressing it, or you're battling it, or whatever, time then becomes the antagonist because you're trying to separate yourself from that thing. Mind blown. I love it. So now I have yet another antagonist on our list, which is how can you leverage time and use that dynamic in your writing, especially in the context of the character traits. Good stuff, guys. Super good stuff. So Kathleen's going to show you where you can find us, and come on over and share on LiLLiPub.org, because we would love to meet you all there.
Yep. Come on over to LiLLiPub.org. Then join the Fusion Writing Group when you get there. We have a group discussion every Saturday. Victoria puts up the feed at, she'll tell us the time in Central. For me, it's 11 o'clock Pacific time, and we go from there to 1 to 2 hours. It depends on how much we have to go over, because we go over your writing. You get to post your writing, and you have some of the most caring but very, very sharp-eyed people to help you improve your writing. This is just an incredible opportunity, because you will not get this level of attention for what, $8 a month. $8 a month. So if you attend all 4 weeks, 2 hours a week, that's $1 an hour for coaching? Are you kidding me?
No.
That's insane.
I want that deal.
Okay. Anything to add?
Nope. This was a great session. Just come play with us. We can't wait to meet you.
See you next time. Bye-bye.